So we're back. Got Rob here with us again. We wanted to talk about a little something. The economy's starting to change, the market's starting to change, and with this change comes some challenges, but also comes some opportunities. And Rob, tell us about some of the things you may have seen in this changing environment we're seeing.
First of all, the first thing, whether the market's changing up, down, or whatever, it's like, relax. This is a long-term game. So what the market does in the next 6 months is not going to really have much effect on you 15 years from now, because it's going to go up and down multiple times during that 15-year period.
Yeah, very true.
So that's the first thing. When I've been talking to people recently, and it's like, oh my God, the market's changing. Well, yeah, the market's always changing. The market's never still. So, and there's never the perfect time to buy an investment property for whatever reason. It's like anything else in life. Whatever the strength is also a weakness.
Yeah, in any market, you don't want to time the market, because if you time the market, number one, 100% of the time you're going to be wrong.
Right.
And if you don't do it, then you're just totally missing out.
Right. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing, is the missing out, because it's an investment property. First of all, somebody's paying the mortgage on it. So you're not missing out on anything. You're getting this property paid for by somebody else, regardless of what the market looks like.
Yep.
I think, in this market that we're in right now, as it's changing, the nice thing for investors is, because the properties that were good investment properties 6 months ago had 20 offers. And so no matter what, at that point, an investor was still, somebody's paying it for you, but overpaying at the time for the market. That's kind of stopped now. Are you getting a great deal? Probably not, but you're getting a fair deal now, which is about all you can ask for as an investor.
Yeah, it's there was so much competition before with investors. Everybody wanted to jump into the market. Everybody was making money. Everybody wanted to be a part of it. Everybody wanted to get involved. And then we had a little bit of a shift. I wouldn't say everybody's kind of jumped ship at this point, but you've kind of seen, at least the new people haven't, or you're not seeing more people joining.
Correct.
Which again offers an opportunity for those out there. It makes me think about the Warren Buffett quote. He says, buy when there's blood in the streets, sell when everybody's buying. So right now, it hasn't happened yet, but it is starting to kind of slow down a little bit. So there could be some opportunities out there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think as the market changes, and we, likely go into a recession of some level, and nobody knows whether it's going to be a big recession, a little recession, short, long, probably not very long and probably not very big. But no matter what, when that happens, foreclosures creep up. We haven't had foreclosures. As an agent, I had people ask me over the last couple, 3-4 years, help me find foreclosures. I'm like, what foreclosures? They didn't exist for the past few years. They are beginning to come back into play a little bit now, and they will now. Interest rates were so low that it made it almost impossible for people to get upside down, and prices were going up so fast. In the market that we're moving into, which is probably going to be steady or maybe a decline for a little while, suddenly that changes. So we are going to see some opportunities for people. There's no doubt about that. I think, again, it's all about each individual investor and what they're looking for. I think the other thing we're going to see going forward is, and we've talked about it a little bit, the accidental investor, or the investor who didn't really set out to do that, is going to become the investor now because I got a 2.5% interest rate. I got a lot of equity in my house. I'm going to buy a new house. Well, I'll just take a home equity line and take some equity out of it and keep my 2.5% interest rate and rent the house out.
Yeah, we termed those the investors by default.
Yeah.
Back in the '08 downturn, there was more and more of those. Well, so as this environment brings us rising interest rates, it's going to be tougher to get into some of these long-term hold properties and keep that cash flow down. So we've been talking about some things like ARMs, adjustable rate mortgages, and things of that nature to be able to help our clients out as well.
Absolutely. I think, and again, what is it? I saw something recently that said, what is it? You date the mortgage, but marry the house.
There you go. Yep.
So your mortgage is at 5.5% today. In 6 months, those may be at 3.5% or 4%, and you can refinance. So right now, mortgages are going up, but so are rental rates. Rental rates are still going up. So they've kept pace, I think, with the mortgage rates. So that's kind of made the increase in mortgage interest rates kind of a wash for a lot of investors.
Yeah, you've got the rents really starting to go up from that standpoint, so it should help out. I want to back up for a second and talk about, you were talking about foreclosures a minute ago. And that's going to be, I really believe that's going to be a huge opportunity for people.
Yeah.
And I don't think people are really thinking about that yet, because the last time we had this huge swash of foreclosures come through, it was in a time when the banks knew they had something valuable. And therefore they could put premiums on these properties. And sometimes you'd get a deal. You'd really have to really look and do some research, make sure the rehab, worked out. But a lot of times it might not be a great deal. This time's going to be different. This time people are going to have equity in their property. When you are having these auctions or they are foreclosed, there's probably going to be a lower cost there for the investor.
Yeah, I think there will be some lower costs for investors. I think the other thing is these might not be quite as distressed properties, because I think a lot of them are going to be properties that have not been held for years. I think they're probably going to be fairly recent mortgages. The people who are going to get in trouble from that standpoint, I think, are going to get in trouble faster in this changing market than they have in the past.
So another challenge that kind of comes along in this time, or what we'd be seeing right now, is kind of rehab. You find this property, the first thing you got to do usually is rehab it to be able to put it back on the market. There's a challenge there. There's not a whole lot of people or workers out there who are able to do this. I feel like we've lost a lot of them.
I don't know if we've lost them, or I think during the upturn, everybody was doing, they were cash rich and everybody was doing work on their house. So I think they just got eaten up, and there's competition, as we know, there's competition for every employee now. So they're getting recruited away from the construction business, I think, and that's affecting it a whole lot. So from that standpoint, I think if we have a little recession, that's going to be like the greatest thing that could happen from an investment standpoint as far as the rehabs go, because there's going to be more of a pool of people who can actually do the work.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And, with this thought of recession, one big glaring thought comes at me. And we've talked about kind of rising rents. And in our current market that we've got, I think the data's still showing you're going to see that. But with recession comes everything kind of deflates, not the right word, but goes down a little bit. You're going to have more and more tenants unable to pay their rent.
Absolutely. It's going to be across the board. And I think that's going to make selection of tenants more and more important, because, again, for the past couple of years, there's been cash going out to people. finding a job was easy. It was almost like you could find five every time you needed one. That's going to change a little bit now. We're going to go back. I don't think this recession is going to take us into some. We all still have PTSD from 2009, 8, 9, and 10.
Yep.
That's not what we're looking at. We may already be in recession. Who knows? Sometimes the way these little recessions work, sometimes you're in it and out of it before you really even realize it.
Very true. You hit on something too, Rob. The key to make sure you are getting the right tenant, fully getting the right tenant, doing your due diligence to make sure that's right. And it highlights the fact that you have to have that right team, like you talked about before, have that right
Absolutely.
property manager.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, I mean, let's be honest. If someone's had credit issues in the past 2 years, during a time when wages were going up astronomically, no matter what, they could find a job, and they were being given large chunks of money from the federal government multiple times. If they have credit problems during that time, they're going to be in trouble with the least little dip in the economy. So really digging in and figuring out, and that person who may have looked like a good tenant 3 years ago, that just maybe had a few blips on their credit, well, that could turn into a nightmare tenant now, and quickly and easily.
Yeah.
So it is about finding, it goes back to that team and finding the right people to help you find the right tenants. And I think everybody tends to want to help people. And that's a great thing. But as an investment, we have to look beyond helping people to finding the best qualified tenants that we can.
Yeah. And we keep talking about kind of the long-term hold investment.
Yep.
And I really do believe that's probably it's probably going to be your best investment anyway, at any time. But really, in changing markets, it's your best investment. If you're looking at flipping homes or things like that, your risk goes way up in a changing market versus buying something, holding it for the long term, getting the rent, maybe selling it 10, 15 years down the road. But yeah, I think right now the time to think, if you're going to be getting into this game, I would be getting into the long-term hold piece.
Absolutely. I think that it's not that everybody's going to lose money on flips. It's just not going to be easy.
Right.
And it just makes more sense. During a little bit of a dip in pricing, buy it and hold it. Again, my largest client typically does 12 to 15 flips a year. He's turned 5 or 6 into rentals over the past 12 weeks. Just with the intent of, if prices are going to drop a little in the next 3 to 4 months, I'll just hold these and rent them and turn them into a flip sometime down in the future when it makes sense.
Yeah, and that's another great thing about this business, this game, is you can be flexible.
Yeah.
You identify a property. You may identify a property to be one thing, and it could be a great flip, and the economy changes. Then all of a sudden, hey, it's going to be a great long-term investment now. Yeah. Beautiful thing about this game.
Or a combination. You could be looking at a property for a flip, and maybe the numbers just don't work exactly right now, but you know that this neighborhood is an up-and-coming neighborhood. Well, 4 years from now, it could be the deal of the century, and suddenly it's picked up incredible amounts of value, plus you get to flip it. So again, you're not locked in. These leases for tenants are not 5, 10, and 15-year leases. You're only locked into a year at a time. So you can always make that switch when it makes sense.
Yep.
And investors should. make those, even for long-term holds, there's a time when you have to look at a property and say, wow, I have a ton of equity in this property. I either need to refinance it and buy some more, or sell it and buy some more.
Right. Yeah. There's always that time. And you can, I mean, really, you could analyze that at any time.
Absolutely.
The longer you hold it, the more you're going to find that you've built that equity and you've got it built up. One last thing I wanted to kind of discuss, because I don't think we're seeing it now, and I don't think we're going to see it this time, but when we do have changing markets, we tend to see it. It's when kind of the bank credit dries up. And where do you go as an investor if I can't find financing from my bank? And that's a lot of times that's where people go to start out with. You got to have alternatives. Some of the things people need to know about is kind of some, like hard money lenders, private investors, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, those are out there. The hard money lenders, and hard money lenders get a bad name,
right.
And sometimes they are bad. Just like everything else, there's good ones and there's bad ones.
Right.
But you just have to look at the interest rates are higher. There's no doubt they're going to be higher. But you just have to look at that property and can it cash flow with that extra interest burden on there? If it can, it still works. And again, you're not married to that loan.
Right.
2 years from now or a year from now, when the credit situation changes, then you just flip that into a regular mortgage. Although we're seeing some credit tightening, but I don't think we're seeing a huge amount of credit tightening. There's always going to be a lender here or there that makes a decision, maybe during this economy, I don't want to work with investors, but there's others who are still doing it and recognize that this is still a good time to invest, and the risk is not dramatically higher or lower at any given time.
Right. I think at the end of the day, we are problem solvers. We always have to be flexible. We always have to be creative. A lot of people talk about creative financing, creative deals, putting together deals. And it's even more so in times like this.
Yeah. I mean, I think and again, goes back to the team, finding the team that works, that can help you find what you need. That may be that the investment that comes up, that's the perfect investment, is a 12-unit apartment, 3 buildings, 12 units. That may be more than that investor can do. If you have the right team around you, you can get put together with another investor to make that work for both of you.
Yep.
Because there's, like you said, you have to get creative in anything that you're going to succeed in life, whether it's whatever it is, whether it's raising kids, working every day, or investing. Sometimes you have to get creative, and it's okay to do that. That offers you some options that you wouldn't have otherwise.
Yep.
You know that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've watched you do that many times.
So it's always fun to be creative, to figure out how to solve a problem.
Yeah, that actually, from our side of the table, that actually kind of makes the deal more fun.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Rob, thank you for being with us today. Enjoyed talking about ways to be creative, get through these changes, and just do well in investing in real estate. Let us know if there's anything we can do to help you be creative in your deals. You'll see a link attached to this, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks. Look forward to talking to you.